Greetings, Brian. Sorry it took me a few days to get around to your video, but I did watch it when you first posted, and I just haven't had the time to sit down and do a response because, well, I've been working on my own videos over the past little while. Okay, so I wanted to go through your video again and just kind of take notes as I go and see what kind of stuff I could, well, see what your questions were, and then sort of just take some brief notes on stuff. Okay, so I guess the big question, the one that I know you've posted quite a few videos about, and as you know, as a longtime fan of the comics, I know that such a huge shift in the storyline is you know, cause for concern. I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that it's a change that you yourself aren't particularly fond of and don't particularly care for. I recall when you got issue 230 in the mail, you did a big video saying how, you know, I have it, but I'm not going to open it. I'm going to wait until this story arc is resolved, and then I'm going to sit down and read the whole thing. And you know, that's cool. That's totally. I mean, it's your comics. Do what you want with them, right? But yeah, and you went into some other examples about some other shows, or well, I guess some other shows and comics and stuff where things had happened along those lines. So just sort of thinking about it, I was thinking like, well, okay, consider how long the Sonic the Hedgehog series has been running now. I mean, 230 issues, and Lord knows how many spin-offs and miniseries and tie-in events and whatnot. Oh, sorry, I just woke up and I'm having my morning coffee and still battling that cold that, you know, started a little while ago. Trying to kill it with lots of, you know, good night's sleeps. Yeah, but what I was going to say is, you know, when a series runs for so long and you have so many, you know, stories going on and whatnot, I think it reaches a point where the creators almost have to shake things up just to keep things interesting, you know. Otherwise it just kind of gets it runs the risk of falling into the trap of just being the same old stuff all the time. It's like, okay, Sonic and the gang versus Robotnik and blah blah blah, and it just, you know, they keep fighting and fighting and fighting, and there's really no headway one way or the other. So I think taking a major character like Sally and roboticizing her is, I mean, it's, of course it's bound to upset fans, because I mean she's one of the original characters. I mean, she's right from the TV series, and everybody loves her, you know. I mean, I've always been a Sally fan for sure. I think she's a terrific character, you know, really strong female character, great role model for little girls, and just a great likable character. So to take a beloved character like that and do something like that is going to be shocking. But I can kind of understand why they did it. I mean, obviously they want to freshen things up and shake things up a little bit, and, you know, try taking things in a new direction. And I mean, this is nothing new to comic books, as I'm sure I don't need to tell you. You know, I mean, there's been examples for decades of comic book companies shaking things up. You know, I mean, Marvel, how many times has Marvel shaken things up by killing characters, or you know, having alternate timelines and things like that? DC, how about DC and their Crisis on Infinite Earths storylines? And then there was some other Crisis storylines that they did later, where they basically they didn't just shake up a few characters, they shook up the whole darn DC universe, you know, and that was a big deal. So I kind of see Sally being roboticized as the same kind of thing. To give you a specific example of how this type of thing was done in the past and actually turned out really good, the X-Men, the whole Phoenix Saga storyline. I mean, here you had Jean Grey, who, like Princess Sally, Jean Grey was one of the original X-Men. She was one of the original characters, you know. And they took this long-running, beloved character and did something really radical with her, where she, going by the original storyline, not the countless retcons that have shown up since, but where she basically became possessed by the Phoenix Force and helped them fight off the, you know, helped the Shi'ar Empire and stuff like that. And this big epic saga, at the end of which she died. So, I mean, not only did you have this radical change to the character where she became this unstoppable force with the power of the Phoenix, but she died at the end of it. And originally that was it. Jean was dead. But later on, when they introduced X Factor, they created this whole retcon storyline where it's like, no, she actually wasn't dead, and who we thought was Jean wasn't actually Jean. It was the Phoenix mimicking Jean. And Jean herself had actually been stored in this cocoon at the bottom of the ocean to keep her out of the way, and you know, something like that. Anyway, it was kind of convoluted, but in the end, we ended up getting Jean back. But you know how it is in comic books. I mean, when a character dies, they never really stay dead. But the end result of that was we have the Phoenix Saga, which is considered one of the all-time great classic X-Men stories ever. So I kind of see the whole Sally being roboticized thing as being akin to that. It's kind of like the Phoenix Saga of the Sonic the Hedgehog comics, you know, or at least that's kind of the direction they're trying to go. At least that's the impression I get. I can only sort of go by fan reaction and what little I've seen online, because I don't read the comics regularly, but of course I am familiar with the characters, just having seen the TV series and such. And the comics are definitely something I've been wanting to get into for a long time, because I love the fact that they basically took the Sad AM storyline and continued it in massively epic fashion. So yeah, I do have the first few graphic novel reprints, thanks to one of my viewers. I think I got the first 10 or 11. I think I've got the first 11 volumes. Each one has 4 issues. So I will be sitting down and reading those at some point, and eventually I'll get up to issue 230. So yeah, so where am I? Wow, I'm already up to 6 minutes. So we might have to split this into 2 parts, but somehow I don't think you'll mind. The Berenstain Bears movie, yeah, I actually had not heard about that. So they're doing a live-action CG Berenstain Bears movie. That's interesting. I hope they don't do it sort of like what they did with some of the other storylines, you know, or the other, you know, classic characters and such, where they take them into the real world or whatever, some nonsense like that. Just keep it the good old Berenstain Bears in the forest, learning life lessons, and everything's wonderful. But yeah, I mean, I'll check out the trailers, obviously, whenever trailers become available and stuff like that. And you know, if it's done well, then that's absolutely something I would love to take Rosie to go see, because she has a few of the Berenstain Bears books, and they're some of her favorite books. I mean, those are some of the books she always asks me to read for bedtime stories and stuff. So yeah, I would absolutely love to take her to see a Berenstain Bears movie. I just hope they do a good job of it. So it remains to be seen. I guess we'll find out. Underdog. I used to read some of the Underdog comics when I was a kid, and I do recall vaguely seeing the show a few times. Honestly, I was never a huge Underdog fan. I thought it was okay. I mean, it's fine, you know, character, superpowered dog character, whatever. But I wouldn't say I was a huge fan. It's sort of one of those shows that I'll pick up eventually, probably when you know, if I find it cheap or whatever. With the collected edition out now, there's certainly a little more incentive to pick it up, because I understand that it's not just Underdog, but a lot of the other shows that were included in that you know, programming block included with it. So yeah, I'll probably pick it up at some point, but I wouldn't say it's a huge priority at this time. SOPA. Oh God. You're not the first person to ask me about SOPA. What are my thoughts on it? Well, honestly, I've talked about this a little bit in the chat room, and I think the problem with SOPA is it's basically, I've talked about this kind of thing for a while, is that we're seeing a lot of the old school studios and big, you know, mega corporations of the entertainment industry basically panicking, just freaking out because of the internet. And you know, some of the studios have adapted. You know, for example, a lot of them, if you use some of their music in one of your videos or something, they won't flag your video. They'll put a little iTunes link on there saying like, hey, this is the song that this person used in the video, and you can buy it here, which I think is great. I think that's a good, healthy way to adapt and, you know, embrace the internet and the wild frontier that it has become, like to become a part of it rather than trying to squash it. I mean, the whole thing with SOPA basically is the studios trying to kill the internet, and that's never going to happen. That just cannot happen. I mean, look at all the people like us who do reviews and talk about products and stuff. Suddenly that's going to be grounds for copyright infringement. That's going to be grounds for being sued. Like, come on, that's ridiculous. Like, I can't you know, I can't pick up a a DVD or a Blu-ray and show the cover anymore if I'm talking about it. You know, I can't mention things by name because that would be considered like, it's just stupid. It is absolute stupidity. It's basically the studios panicking, freaking out, clinging to the old, outdated ways, and refusing to adapt and change with the times. And you know what's going to happen? It's not us that's going to suffer. It's them that's going to suffer, because they're going to keep resisting this change, resisting until nobody wants to have anything to do with them anymore. I mean, look at how popular independent films are nowadays, and foreign films and stuff like that. Things that the Hollywood machine and the U.S. music industry has no foothold in whatsoever. I mean, sure, they'll sponsor the occasional independent film or whatever and try to cash in on it, but you know, for the most part, they have no control over that, and they have no control over the internet, and they never will. You know, the most they can hope to do is adapt and find a way to make it work. So they need to stop this constant resisting. I mean, for God's sake, we're 6 years now almost into the life of YouTube. Actually, no, over 6 years. We're over 6 years into the life of YouTube, and YouTube was really a part of that World Wide Web revolution. And how long have peer-to-peer file sharing networks been out there? You know, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I consider peer-to-peer file sharing networks, for those who don't abuse them, to basically be the equivalent of the VCR in its day. Did the VCR kill the movie and music industry? No. Did burnable CDs kill the music industry? No. Did MP3s kill the music industry? No. And it's the same thing with, you know, with peer-to-peer file sharing networks. I just see it as people with like-minded interests sharing content. It's the exact same thing as somebody recording something on a VHS tape and lending it to their friend, saying, "Here, I recorded that show for you. Here you go. You can watch it." You know. And people like me, it's not like I don't support the industry, for God's sake, you know. I mean, do you need any more proof? I mean, all these shelves here of content that I buy far more content than anybody else that I know. Do I feel that gives me a sense of entitlement to more free shit? No, of course not. But what I use those services for is to, you know, watch something, because I don't have cable, so I'll watch a show on there, and then when the Blu-ray comes out, I'll buy the Blu-ray, you know, or I'll buy the DVD set or whatever. Like, I will immediately give them my money directly by purchasing their product. And I use peer-to-peer file sharing networks as a VCR, basically. You know, I see it as just borrowing episodes of a show from a friend who recorded them from me. The only difference is I don't know the friend personally. I think there are those who abuse it, and they basically download things and whatnot instead of buying the products and supporting the industry, and that's just wrong. But you know, I think there's a place for it, and the whole thing with them doing digital copies to try to combat piracy, that was just stupid and pointless. Because, I mean, the digital copies that you can get on the file sharing networks are better quality than the digital copies you get with the damn movies. So, yeah, and tend to be smaller file sizes too. So basically, long and short of it is, I think that SOPA is going to fail dismally. It's going to blow up in their faces. I mean, there's already a huge backlash from, well, the entire internet. So, yeah, these old world studios basically need to fire all the old farts who are running them and put new people in there with fresh ideas who don't cling to that old world mentality. They just want to control everything, and they're not. You know, they're scared because the studios used to control everything. It used to be, if you wanted to get a movie made, you had to pitch it to a studio and hope they said yes. But that's not the case anymore. Now with YouTube and everything like that, you can do your own damn movies. But, and then as far as content distribution goes, it's the same thing. I mean, it's just way easier to get pirated material now, and that's what they're freaking out about. And, well, they need to figure out a way to work with that rather than defeat it, because it's never going to be defeated. Yep, there's a few other things here. We're going to have to go to a part 2. Part 2 will probably be fairly short, because there's just a few more items here. So anyway, yeah, I think SOPA is stupid, and just another case of the entertainment industry freaking out over something they have no control over, trying to get control of it, and they never will. So yeah, it's absolutely 100% going to fail. There is no question about that. Alright, so I'm going to wrap up this part, and I will see you in part 2.